If you want to get a fix on what's gone wrong with the American family and the American city, spend some time, as we did recently, in New York's family court and be a witness to the ways in which law and disorder works or doesn't. Stay long enough, you'll see it all. The battered child, the crack mother, the 10-year-old mugger, the burnt-out social worker, the nitpicking lawyer, all of them sloshing through the well-meaning swamp called the child welfare system. And you'll find presiding there Judith Sheindlin, Judge Judith Sheindlin. And if you find her a little bit shrill, a little bit testy, well, she'd be very pleased.
Unless he's in a hospital, he's to be in school. Clear, sir? This is not a legal game, counselor. This witness may not have a terrific memory, but I've got a very good memory, sir. You have a lot more questions? Good. Well, what do you want me to give him, a testimonial dinner? Thank you very much. Step out.
She is a 5'2" package of attitude with a capital A. And pity the young lawyer who dares to question the judge's judgment.
Well, are you suggesting, Miss Gutierrez, that if I placed him on probation, he would never go visit his mother?
No,
are you
Judge.
suggesting that?
No,
so
Judge.
So let's be real.
To those who confront her, she is the evil queen in a lace collar.
If that's too hard for you, sir, I guarantee you I will put you someplace where you're going to be in bed at 9 o'clock and in school every day. That's where the rest of your friends are.
And she deals with legal procedures with a scalpel.
So your objection's noted. It's overruled. Have a seat. No, listen to me. This is not a tea party. You make an objection, I rule.
The players in this theater of misery are the judge, lawyers, caseworkers, addicted parents, and castaway children.
You make a fool of me again, sir, by not doing what you're supposed to do, and I guarantee you it'll be a very sorry day. We understand each other? Yes. The respondent is paroled to his father in conjunction with the dome.
Unlike criminal court, there is no jury. Those present are supposed to work out a solution that is supposed to be in the best interest of the child. It is never easy.
This baby was born drug addicted, and if you keep using drugs, the other baby is going to be born drug addicted. And I'm telling you right now, you're not going to take this baby home from the hospital because the commissioner's not going to let you.
And when she feels the best interest of the child is to scare the living daylights out of him, she does not shy away.
Now for you, Joey, I want you to stand up, because I have a few things to say to you. I am dismissing this case, sir, because the law says that I must. That doesn't mean you're innocent, sir. That doesn't mean that you weren't involved in both of these robberies that night. That just means that they weren't able to prove it. We understand each other, sir?
Yes.
That little boy, 13-year-old boy, was sitting right here. And you were trying to scare the hell out of him.
Correct.
You think you did?
I don't know, but I try.
No, but do you think you really scared him? You think?
I scared him not only by what I said to him verbally, but by the fact that when he was originally in the court, he was arraigned before another judge, and he was told to go to a particular program, an all-day school, and he didn't go. I said to him, we're not playing games here with you. This is the rule. You were told you were going to be paroled if you went to the alternatives to detention school. You didn't go to the school, you go to detention. I mean, if we're going to make orders, we have to be prepared to enforce them. Otherwise, everybody laughs at us and thinks that we're full of baloney, right?
And baloney is what she hates. But lectures she likes a lot, likes to give them. And when a caseworker seems to be dragging his feet, there is the threat of nuclear response.
Sir, you don't want me to have palpitations, do you? What? Very bad when I get palpitations. You have to see to it that this visitation takes place. It's very important that this child get to see his mother and his grandmother. And the longer he spends not seeing his family, the more difficult it's going to be. Is that a fair statement, sir? Yes. Well, then let's just do it. The goal is to get them to do the right thing. Nobody who comes into my courtroom who's done the right thing is afraid. They're afraid if they come in and they do the routine thing, which is just giving me a lot of rhetoric and gobbledygook, either one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to say, I want off this case, I'm never going back there before that monster again, or they'll say, the next time I come in, I better have done my job better.
Do they ever mouth off at you?
Rarely.
Indeed. Robert Little, the commissioner of the Child Welfare Administration, had some choice words about the judge. up until the cameras started turning. Then this.
She's always been very cordial, and, you know, we get along well as far as I know.
You get along well personally, but I don't think your agency gets along well with the judge.
Well, she talks to me a great deal about things that need improvement, as do a number of judges, and we attempt to make the necessary adjustments.
Why must a caseworker have 3 supervisors?
We have an initial supervisor, 1, that is essentially a backup to the unit supervisor. The unit supervisor has a manager, a case protective manager, who supervises a number of units.
And very often, these 2 supervisors and this caseworker has another supervisor.
It's 4 so far.
Right. They are represented by a child welfare attorney who practices here in the court.
5.
5. Now, they get this one child. Usually it's more than one in a family, but let's say they get this one child. And the city decides we are going to subcontract the care of that child to a private care agency, another business. There are many of them, but it's a private agency. That private agency has a caseworker, a supervisor. That supervisor has a supervisor, and minimally, that agency also has a lawyer that we all pay for. Now, we are paying for 9 people
For 1 child.
for that child.
More than half the payments for family foster care in New York City go to kinship foster care, a program that enlists relatives, usually grandmothers, to look after abused or neglected children. While many people say it's an excellent way to keep families together, others, like Judge Sheindlin, say it's a way to rip off the city for big money. And she has a favorite example.
Well, that was a foster mother who was a grandmother who had 6 children, 6 grandchildren with her, and the children were ultimately removed from her because they found the children living in abysmal conditions. This lady had been receiving $3,000 a month from the city.
This is the grandmother.
The city to take care of the grandchildren. And when I asked her, what were you doing with the money? Her response to me was, I bought a house in Puerto Rico.
The judge says the system of paying a grandmother to be a foster parent, in theory, removing a child from a destructive mother, is an invitation for the whole family to cheat.
That money is tax-free. Nobody monitors what's done with that money. Nobody monitors how it's spent. I've had cases where both parents work for the Child Welfare Administration and their children are in kinship foster care. It was used like a babysitting service.
The judge's repetition of these horror stories has opened her up to accusations that she's insensitive to the needs of the people she serves, not least to the problems of caseworkers. The city would not allow its caseworkers to talk to us, so we asked Commissioner Little.
Part of Judge Sheindlin's problem with this agency is a caseworker comes in, often with as many as 3 or 4, an entourage of 3 or 4 people, of supervisors and a lawyer, and nobody in that entourage is familiar with the case.
Well, I've always been open to the judge's constructive improvement suggestions and would continue to be so.
But when they do come in like that, she beats up on them.
I don't have any personal observations of that type of thing, but I do get a number of reports that suggest that they're not held in high esteem.
New York City lawyers might feel the same after a session in Judge Sheindlin's courtroom.
Mr. Wilger, because I run my courtroom, right?
I know you run your courtroom.
That's
I know
correct,
all
sir.
too well
The
you run your
tail
courtroom.
doesn't wag the dog. So all I'm asking you is, do you want me to order new reports or whether we will use the old reports?
Well, I just want to state my position on it.
That's denied.
My position
That's denied.
is that I believe
That is,
my
Mr.
client-
Wilger, Mr.
when many
Wilger,
things were going into with my client.
you
that
want
were
new reports?
inappropriate,
You want new
and
reports,
I
sir?
believe that those are on this
Oh,
report.
God
in these
almighty.
reports, and I just,
Just tell me what you want, old reports or new reports, and I'll give you whatever you want.
well, I believe that new reports should be ordered. I
Good.
believe
Order
that reports should
new
be
reports.
ordered because
Order
I believe that there are many
new-
statements that were
Good.
To Sheindlin, justice must not only be done and seen to be done, it must be seen to be done fast.
Could you please move on, Miss Allen? I have about 20 other cases to do today, Counselor.
Objections? Forget it.
Your Honor, I would object. I believe this is beyond the scope of direct, and I would
Just a
ask that Ms.
second.
Allen adopt this witness as her own if she's going to ask these types of questions.
Okay, let me tell you this, so that you don't make that objection again. Since you have an objection on the 2 grounds that I made, sit down and don't interrupt this proceeding again. Sit down.
I was stating
Sit
that
down. You have a standing objection. And if you want to state any other bases for your objection, I will direct that the reporter be here at 5 o'clock, because I have 30 other cases to do, and you can come in and put any ground that you want on the record.
yes, Your Honor.
Good.
Miss Levy had only one more thing to say. Just read her lips. If you missed it, it rhymes with which.
I worry that occasionally, because I'm outspoken, that somebody's going to say, well, this lady's not going to be reappointed. We're not going to give her another opportunity to beat our brains out. You know, we'll find somebody else who won't beat our brains out. I mean, come on, we understand what's happening here. This hand doesn't know what this hand is doing. And now we want...
Understand that, Judge.
now,
All we're saying,
all
Judge.
I want you to say, Mr. Hill, is that I'll take care of it this week. You
not
can
allowing-
put families back together again. You can find the right place for a kid who's in trouble. You can make a difference in the life of a family. And if you see a situation like that, and if you're not willing to commit yourself to breaking a sweat, then you don't belong in this business. Go to work in surrogate's court. Everybody's dead over there.
So much for her judicial colleagues. For 20 years, Judge Sheindlin has worked family court, first in the Bronx, now in Manhattan. She's the fastest judge in the system, nearly 300 cases a month, a judicial treadmill. She uses a real one in the gym where the machinery never talks back.
Did you terrorize your own kids the way you terrorize other people's kids in court?
They ignore me. They knew at a very early age how to impose young Jewish guilt on their working mother. So although I tried to be intimidating, I don't think I was very successful.
She's had 2 husbands and raised 5 children, 3 of them following her into the law. Adam, a prosecutor on Long Island, said his mother maintained a unique code of justice at home.
There's the Court of Appeals, there's even the Appellate Division. But there is no appeals here.
It's mine.
That's it.
Judy's law.
It's Judy's law. That's exactly what it is.
And festive family dinners are done in the traditional Manhattan way. They're ordered in.
You want to know the recipe? 212, dial. Food.
There are legions of caseworkers and lawyers who will go into shock at these scenes. The evil queen in the role of fairy grandmother.
Give me a kiss.
Given what you have to deal with every day, the degradation, the abuse, the pain, the suffering, God knows, what does it do to the judge?
What keeps me going are those few cases, maybe 10 a year. Maybe 10 a year. And I do maybe 1,000 cases a year. Maybe 10 of them I can make a real positive difference. That keeps you going. I try to get the best out of people who come before me. I try to give them my best, try to make the best possible solution, very often out of a very terrible situation. I know it's just a Band-Aid, but it's the best Band-Aid I can put on it.
You think 10 years from now it's going to be better or worse here?
Worse. A lot worse.
Half the time, someone is unhappy with a judge's ruling. The normal recourse is an appeal. But in the caustic atmosphere of today's politics, there's a real chance the disgruntled party will threaten the judge. In the last 5 years, threats of federal judges have jumped 400% to more than 4,000 last year, many of them death threats, sometimes ending in violence. As we first reported earlier this year, judges are breaking with tradition and publicly calling on lawmakers to provide more protection. One of the strongest voices is federal Judge Esther Salas. Last July, she was at home in New Jersey in the basement with her son Daniel, cleaning up after his 20th birthday party, when a man disguised as a FedEx driver pulled up outside.
Danny turned around and he said,
let's keep talking. I love talking to you, Mom. And it was at that exact moment that the doorbell rang. And before I could stop him, he just shot up the stairs. The next thing I hear is boom. It just sounded like a mini bomb. And then I hear no. And then I hear boom, boom, boom. And I just screamed, what is happening? When I got upstairs, it was something no mother should ever see.
Daniel lying bleeding by the door. Mark, her husband, on his knees, holding his side. Daniel was barely clinging to life.
I didn't even know what to do. I remember picking up his shirt and seeing the bullet hole. You know, we were screaming, Daniel, hold on, and don't leave us. And then I just, as I think about that day, I realized I was watching my only child fade away.
Daniel died on the way to the hospital. Mark is lucky to be alive. How seriously injured was he?
Mark was shot 3 times in the right chest, the left abdomen, in the arm.
A close-knit family, they called themselves the Three Musketeers. Judge Salas told us Daniel, a college sophomore, was the center of their universe. From his wounds, the FBI said it appeared Daniel had tried to block the gunman. When did you realize that the attack was meant for you?
It wasn't until the FBI debriefings, they've looked at this case inside and out, tell me, ma'am, you were the target. He wanted to get you.
The shooter was Roy Den Hollander, a 72-year-old lawyer. He harbored deep hatred for women and left behind a bitter manifesto. He accused Judge Salas of being, quote, a lazy Latina, dragging her feet on his lawsuit. Police found his body the next day. He had shot himself. The FBI discovered he had killed another lawyer a week before. Then he went hunting for Judge Salas.
He knew obviously where I lived. He knew my routes to work. He knew the church we attended. He had Daniel's school. He knew baseball games. Just a complete workup on me and my family.
The information that he got, all from legal sources?
All open sources, they call it.
We met Judge Salas outside her home 6 months after Daniel's murder. She told us her husband needed additional surgery. The house has been sold. 20 years of wonderful memories, she told us, and one that's excruciating.
We are living every parent's worst nightmare. Making preparations to bury our only child, Daniel.
Last August, in a highly unusual move for a federal judge, Judge Salas made a personal plea to lawmakers on YouTube.
We may not be able to stop something like this from happening again, but we can make it hard for those who target us to track us down.
Since Daniel's funeral, Judge Salas has become a crusader for federal legislation to scrub judges' personal information from the internet. Her mission became more urgent when the FBI discovered a second locker in New Jersey belonging to her son's killer. What did they find? What was in the locker?
They found another gun, a Glock, more ammunition. But the most troubling thing they found was a manila folder with a workup on Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor.
Yes. Chilling.
What do you think when you find that a Supreme Court justice was on his list?
More than on his list, on his sites. They had her favorite restaurants, where she worked out, her friends.
Our report was the first time that plot was revealed.
Who knows what could have happened? But we need to understand that judges are at risk. We need to understand that we put ourselves in great danger every day for doing our jobs. This fact has to wake us up. As the first Hispanic woman to serve as a district court judge,
Judge Salas told us she never dreamed she'd be putting her family in harm's way when she was sworn in 2011. The last judicial security upgrade was 15 years ago, after Chicago Judge Joan Lefkow came home one night and found her husband and mother shot dead by a disgruntled plaintiff. The new legislation to be taken up by the Senate is seeking more than $250 million for home security and 1,000 more deputy marshals. It would erase a long list of personal data online, such as a home address, driver's license, and property tax records. You chose to be a judge, and in becoming a public person, don't you have to give up some of your personal details for the sake of accountability?
You're right. I did choose to become a public servant. And if anyone has a problem with what I've ruled in a particular case, they can appeal. If anyone is upset, the courthouse address, it's known to everyone. Come to the courthouse. But why do you need to come to my house?
We can't show you, but U.S. Marshals now provide round-the-clock security for Judge Salas. She told us judges are increasingly threatened online. Last year, there were 4,200 threats against federal judges. She read us a few of those.
We, quote, must start killing these corrupt politicians and judges and their families, end quote. Another one. The judge is a traitor and has a death sentence.
And this is since the death
This is
of Daniel.
since Daniel's murder in this very house. One other one, just in Mississippi, quote, I will kill you. I just want to get the gun and come down there and blow all their brains out.
State of Washington versus Donald J. Trump.
But perhaps no judge in the country has felt the heat of online threats more than senior U.S. District Judge James Robart. Emotions were already running high when Judge Robart temporarily blocked former President Trump's first travel ban, barring some Muslim travelers. Critics posted his home phone and address online, but nothing prepared him for the tsunami of hate when President Trump used his Twitter bully pulpit to scorn him as a so-called judge.
When you call someone a so-called judge, what you do is you attack the judiciary. You may not even have wanted to convey that message, but that's the message which your 40 million Twitter followers took down, which was, you were never authorized to issue this decision.
Death threats flooded in. Then President Trump tweeted again. If I recall, he also said to blame you if there should be a terrorist attack on the country.
People took that as somehow I was giving permission for their families to be endangered. And then the tone for a number of the messages turned into, you must be stopped.
What did you think about that when the president attacks you?
I thought he had a right to attack my decision. I don't think that criticizing a judge is acceptable. I recognize there's a dispute on that. There is no dispute at the point that you start to talk about, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to hurt you, or more importantly to me, I'm going to hurt your family. That's over the line and can't be tolerated.
Judge Robart was bombarded with 40,000 messages. 1,100 were serious enough to be investigated. There were so many death threats that U.S. Marshals set up camp around the judge's house.
The idea of needing a bomb-sniffing dog to go into a restaurant before we could have lunch impacts you, but you just try to not let that bother you.
That actually happened?
Yes. If you want to know how to be really unpopular with restaurant owners, show up with your dog, which runs around the restaurant barking, and a number of U.S. Marshals who are noticeable.
You're chuckling now, but I take it that at the time you didn't see the humor in this.
No, I didn't.
Then federal investigators uncovered something more ominous. Thousands of threats that looked to be from Americans were actually from Russia, part of a long game by Vladimir Putin to splinter American democracy.
If Putin can undermine a significant segment of the population's willingness to accept a court's decision, then he can cause chaos in this country.
Suzanne Spalding ran top cybersecurity operations for both Democratic and Republican administrations. She told us Russia undermines the justice system by fanning some American suspicions that judges are partisan. What did Judge Robart do to put himself in Russia's crosshairs?
They attacked him, his decision as reflecting his personal political preferences, as opposed to following the rule of law. And that leads people to conclude that it is appropriate to make threats of violence, and as we saw in the tragic case of Judge Salas, to actually carry out an attack of violence.
How big a threat do you think this is?
You know, I think we got a taste of that on January 6th.
Spalding told us since the siege of the Capitol, there's more pressure on law enforcement to determine which online threats might turn into physical attacks. Take the example of this Alabama man who answered the online call with a truckload of weapons and a hand-scribbled hit list, second from the top, an Indiana judge. So how do you answer people who will say that what I say online, even if it's aggressive, it's my First Amendment right?
So you do have a First Amendment right to express your opinion, even if it's an unpopular opinion. But threats of violence, incitement to violence, those are things that law enforcement can legitimately look into, particularly when it's against our public servants.
Judge Salas lives with those threats. And now that the courthouse has reopened after COVID, she told us Daniel would want her to keep going. Will you be concerned when you re-enter this courtroom?
You know, we're changed forever. You know, Mark and I are different people today, sadly. But as far as what I do on the bench, no, that's not going to change. I'm not going to let Mr. Hollander take that away from me. My integrity, my work ethic, and my pride. No, he won't take that.
Imagine for a moment that you are a lawyer in a small or medium-sized American city, and you're good enough to have just been appointed to the bench. Now you're a judge with a whole new set of things to learn. You wake up one morning, as John Burdett Pratt did, and from here on, you'll be looking down from the bench on the very people you were one of the day before.
I, John Burdett Pratt,
do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
Now what do you do?
I will support.
You're not even sure of the terminology, let alone the rules. The closest you've ever been to the bench is looking up at it from the courtroom. Well, if you're Judge Pratt of Vail, Oregon, you pack up and go to Reno. Yes, Reno. That's where you can go to school and get a crash course in how to be a judge. Less than a mile from the bright lights in the casinos sits the National Judicial College. Nearly 30 years ago, a group of judges and lawyers headed by Supreme Court Justice Tom Clark decided there ought to be a better way to train judges. They created the college.
Remember, it's you against the lawyers now. You used to make money confusing judges and juries. As a lawyer, you just threw up on the wall and see if it'd stick. And if it did, okay, and if it didn't, you tried something else. But as a judge, you're the wall.
Nearly 50,000 federal and state judges have come to the college for part of their judicial education. In most cases, their home states pay the tuition, but some judges pay their own way. And who is the faculty? They're state and federal judges who donate their time. Of all the judges here on campus, Burdett Pratt is the most freshly minted. And one of the things he'll find out is that he'll have to contend with a whole new set of legal issues that have come up since he left law school.
Think about the surrogacy cases. Should we contract for the birth of children? Should you enforce that contract? Should you throw it out? AIDS, the right to die. What about a child in a child abuse case? Qualified to be a witness or not? These are the kinds of things that didn't face you as a lawyer. You may have tried to plead it, but you didn't have to finally decide. You wanted to win, but you didn't have to finally decide. And there's a lot of difference when you get to those two positions. Suppose the question is asked a witness, and the lawyer who called the witness says, "I object." Now, what do?
Well, if there's not a reason stated, I assume I'd overrule the objection.
You notice how he hesitated on his decision here for a while? You don't hesitate, do you? They'll think you're reaching for the coin. Yeah, here it is. Overruled. That's it, you see.
Making the punishment fit the crime is what they are trying to do here. But like courtrooms everywhere, different judges hand out different sentences for the very same crimes.
This is the bribe-taking case with a faithless county official, governmental corruption. And which group wants to take a... Judge Schenken, do you want to take a turn at that for your group?
Basically, 2 years in jail was what we felt was appropriate.
Let me see that group in the bleachers up there, in the two-bit seats there.
I think we averaged 6 years to serve and gave him the last year on probation. That was the max.
Then there's the question of language in the courtroom. Not bad language, but words no one can understand. Legalese.
Judge Parton, have you used lexometrics and telebonics in your trial of cases? You never heard of lexometrics and telebonics?
No, sir.
Well, I never have either. They're two just crazy words. Now, why am I talking about that in a class about jury?
Because, he says, jurors hear words as meaningless as lexometrics and telebonics.
Deposition, interrogatory, voir dire. You know, I've just thrown out a bunch of words that they don't know any more than you know lexometrics and telebonics.
And what do you do to get a kid's attention? Professor Zimmerman tells what one judge did.
And the kid, he said, was standing like this the whole time. And he said, I realized I wasn't getting through to this kid, how serious this was. He said, I decided to take a short recess. I said, and as we take this recess, counsel, would you send your client up to my bench alone, please? And he said, I motioned him right over the front of the bench to me. I got about 6 inches, we're all adults here, so I'll tell you exactly what he said. About 6 inches nose to nose with this kid. And in a voice that nobody else could hear, I said, listen, you little son of a bitch, you may think I'm a nice guy, but if you are in this courtroom again in the next 6 months, your ass is going to be in jail. Do you read me, pal? He said the kid jerked to attention, nodded, and walked backward all the way to the counsel table.
In the substantive area, is that anything that worries you particularly?
One thing I do want to do and will be doing is trying to become an expert on the rules of evidence and try to have that information at my fingertips.
Learning the rules of evidence can be pretty easy, according to Judge Adams.
This is probably the only evidence book you'll ever need. What you do is take it home and take it to your library. Now that's where the porcelain fixtures are, you know. And there's a little thing over there with paper rolled up on it. Hang it right there. Each day you open it to another rule, you see. And in 1 year's time, you'll have been through this book how many times? Several times. And you will be a good judge. That's what you'll be.
There's even a class called Order in the Court 101.
Your first rule when you have to get control, the first thing you say is, counsel, you talk to me and nobody else. If they want to say anything more, they come up and speak to you at the bench.
The lesson is never let two lawyers go at each other.
Otherwise, it's, I object, it's wrong, he knows it's wrong, he knew it was wrong when he got in his big Cadillac in Miami this morning with his big cigar, he knows it's wrong, and away it goes. Don't let him do that. Just crank the rules down, and you'll be in control.
Using the transcript of an actual trial, they play out a courtroom scene where things are out of control.
I'm entitled to use a verdict of not guilty to impeach this witness.
When you talk to me, do not come forward like you are coming, counselor. I am ordering you.
I don't care what you consider.
Judge number 5.
You are not to shout as you have been in the very past instances, and I insist that you keep a reasonable distance from the court.
Pass the gavels. Judge O'Neill.
Your Honor, I'm representing Frank Dominguez, and I'm going to see that he gets a fair trial to the best of my ability, He hasn't received a fair trial all day because of you.
The disruption of this courtroom has been caused by you and my son's lawyer. My son is innocent. He is not getting a fair trial. My son is right, sir. You should step down.
Judge number 3.
I think you're absolutely right. We'll transfer this case to another judge.
Reading from the actual transcript of another trial.
Okay, Judge Hasslinger, you're going to give me an illegal trial. I'm going to blow your head off. Do you understand that? That is exactly what I'm going to do, punk.
What do you do when you are threatened in your courtroom?
Well, I would have interrupted him, and I would have told him...
Your Honor, I won't even dignify these stinking proceedings, punk. Go to hell. You're a dead woman, stone dead, Your Honor.
Well, again, I would have interrupted him just to say, bailiff, take that person away.
That's using the power of contempt in the courtroom. But what about threats outside the courtroom?
So I'm considering adopting my own private security system called a 25mm Beretta.
On your person?
Yes. I don't carry it now, but I'm getting a permit, and I intend to learn how to use it.
You don't carry a piece, do you?
I don't. My predecessor did at all times. Now I have some chemicals, some illegal chemicals.
Mace?
No, tear gas.
All right. I think we all agree that the greater danger is in a civil rather than a criminal case. The people who you send to jail, amazingly enough, don't seem to hold it against you as much, but in these domestic cases...
It's personal.
God almighty. One of the things that I find just awful is to bump into somebody whose case you've just been ruling on, like in a domestic case, and you go into lunch and you get in, that is, as the elevator, and there are 3 people on the elevator. You and the man whose child you just took away from him and his mother. And they just kind of look at you like, you know, if looks could kill, I would be dead.
The first day on the bench can be frightening.
I wouldn't call it sheer terror, but I think there is some anxiety. A quick example is a judge who told me about his first day on the bench, and he put on his robe, walked into the courtroom, heard the bailiff announce him, all rise, court in such and such a county now in session. And so he said, I pretended to be shuffling through some papers, called the bailiff over in a very quiet voice. He said, Jim, what do you think would be the best way to proceed? And he said, Your Honor, why don't you say, call the first case? So I nodded with great gusto. I said, call the first case, and suddenly I was a judge.
All rise, please. The Honorable J. Burdett Pratt presiding.
Please be seated. Oh, by the way, after all this work, his appointment as a judge ends in November, and then Judge Pratt has to run for election.
You will either applaud his conduct on the bench or you will deplore it. The Prairie Judge, it's hard to stay neutral about him, for he is surely the most candid, some have said the most reckless federal judge in the country. Miles Lord, Chief Judge of Minnesota. In his courtroom, he gave a tongue lashing to the executives of the A.E. Robbins Company, the makers of the controversial Dalcon Shield IUD. Angered at the Robbins executives' failures to acknowledge their personal responsibility for the injuries and even the deaths caused by their Dalcon Shield, the judge charged them with corporate irresponsibility at its meanest. Then the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals blistered Lord, saying the judge had crossed the line separating permissible judicial comments from impermissible public accusations. Before that appeals court reprimand last fall, Judge Lord surprised us by his willingness to talk to Mike Wallace about the tongue lashing he gave the Robbins people.
That was pretty tough talk. It wasn't as tough as what I should have done. Oh, come on, that's tough talk. I should have put him in jail. For what? Obstruction of justice. That's all. That's a very wide term for hiding documents, misrepresenting, abusing the process, delaying.
Let me read back to you a little bit of what you said to those executives in this courtroom. Today, as you sit here, you said, attempting once more to extricate yourselves from the legal consequences of your acts, none of you has faced up to the fact that more than 9,000 women claim they gave up part of their womanhood so that your company might prosper.
That's what they did. They pretended they didn't know what was happening.
If one poor young man were, without authority or consent, to inflict such damage upon one woman, he would be jailed for a good portion of the rest of his life.
And that's the truth. They go to jail, but these people can sneak up and plant something in their womb that'll poison them, kill their babies, give them babies, and that's in the name of profit. And that's America? Forbid it, Almighty God.
Before he was rebuked for talk like that, he got Robbins to settle $75,000 on Diane Grudem, who had 9 operations after using the Delcon shield. And when you read what he called the Robbins people, did you feel
I felt good.
vindicated?
More so than when I got my check.
The words meant more than the money.
Oh, definitely.
In cases like that of Diane Grudem, Judge Lord personally conducted the questioning of Robbins' executives during the taking of their videotaped depositions, almost unheard of for a federal judge.
Doctor, let me tell you something. Will you listen to me, please? There's a strange reversal of roles here again today. You seem to be in charge. The judge will be the referee here. You answer the questions. If you don't do that, consequences may follow.
The Robbins company struck back, forcing Judge Lord to hire himself a lawyer, former Attorney General Ramsey Clark, and to appear in this courthouse not as judge, but as defendant. Robbins accused Judge Lord of grossly abusing his office and of methodically destroying their personal and professional reputations. And the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals agreed to hear the Robbins complaint.
They never should have listened to the lies of Robbins. They have done more to intimidate the judiciary and weaken that branch of government by that one act.
Who has done what by one?
The Court of Appeals, the chief judge, by filing a personal complaint against me as though it were a criminal complaint. They have frozen the federal judiciary by this action.
Robbins and their attorney, another former Attorney General, Griffin Bell, declined to grant us an interview, as did most of the judge's colleagues whom we contacted. They were reluctant to talk about him publicly. Not so Irving Younger, attorney, professor of law, and himself a former New York City judge. What's the general perception in the legal profession, in the judicial profession, of Judge Miles Lord?
Well, here, Mike, I'm responding on the basis of sort of street talk within the judging business. Right. Most judges would tend to say that what Judge Lord has done goes over the line. The judge is not someone who possesses a kind of general writ authorizing him to ride around the political landscape, solving problems and putting out forest fires.
Weren't you, in effect, acting as an advocate?
At the end of that case, I had read 5 trials they had. I had all the evidence I need. I make up my mind on cases in 2 hours study on a summary judgment motion. All judges do. This is a myth and a phony.
What's a myth and a phony?
The fact that a judge, after studying thousands of documents, can't make up his mind about anything. Are you a blind man? Justice may be blind, but it's not dumb.
Miles Lord grew up poor in Crosby and Ironton, Minnesota, the only one of 9 brothers and sisters to finish high school. And he seems not to have forgotten where he came from.
When I have problems, when I face decisions, when I consider economic matters, social matters, law enforcement matters, I take myself back to this little town. I wonder, what would the people in Crosby, Ironton say about this? I'm able to get a good deal of help in deciding what I think is right, fair, appropriate, and just.
Like many judges, Miles Lord was a politician before, and some would say after he donned that black robe. He was spawned in the same populist Minnesota tradition as his close friends Hubert Humphrey, Eugene McCarthy, and Walter Mondale. While Lord was Minnesota Attorney General, Walter Mondale was one of his assistants. The Kennedys appointed Lord U.S. Attorney in 1961, and 5 years later, Lyndon Johnson, at Hubert Humphrey's urging, named him to the federal bench. But that has hardly curbed his political candor.
Ronald Reagan worries you.
Frightens the hell out of me.
I don't believe that a federal judge is sitting here in his courtroom and talking politics with me.
Why not?
I
Who
don't
knows?
know.
Is there anybody that's had any more experience?
Nor is he afraid to take on the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, also unheard of for a fellow judge.
I think Warren Burger does a lot of things that are none of his business.
Like?
Like call up the Court of Appeals judges and say, now discipline that judge or I'll discipline him myself.
What's his job? He's the chief judge.
Who said he was the chief of police? That I will support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States against all enemies.
Judge Lord's candor, his style in the courtroom, have earned him respect, anger, and affection. Affection is apparent as he swears in 65 new American citizens. But the Minnesota press has also found reason for skepticism.
They said, Miles Lord seems to be directing a theatrical production.
I do that sometimes.
Like, for instance?
Well, the jury sits over there.
Yeah.
Certain things the lawyers say that are not supposed to be heard. The jury never listens so close. So I have this little button. That music comes right out at the jurors' knees, and they can't hear a word we lawyers, or the judge and the lawyers are saying over here, you see.
And what?
Much more than music emanates from Judge Lord's courtroom. For example, a landmark ruling in favor of this woman, then a high school student. It gave her and others the chance to compete on the boys' tennis team because there was none for the girls. And more recently, a ruling that the Reagan administration had acted illegally when it denied Social Security disability benefits to thousands like Harriet Miller, who is suffering from crippling arthritis and is now forced to live on $90 a week.
They're illegally kicking these people off, and they're only salvation of the federal courts. That's why I enjoined them in 8 states from doing that. Of course, that's been suspended by the Court of Appeals, but it doesn't make it wrong.
10 years ago, Miles Lord used equally tough talk and equally tough tactics when he took on another powerful company, Reserve Mining Company, for polluting the waters of Lake Superior with tons of asbestos-like particles every day. He took them on until the appeals court removed him from the case.
In effect, Judge Lord, you called the people at Reserve Mining corporate outlaws.
Well, they advertised themselves to be good corporate citizens, but they misrepresented. They hid documents that I begged them to produce. They lied and cheated. Is that a corporate outlaw?
Lord insists that he took extraordinary measures because people's lives were in danger. The circuit court removed him, they said, because he had abandoned the greatest virtue of a fair and conscientious judge, impartiality. But the court did uphold the substance of the charges against Reserve.
At one hearing, you said, I have dispensed with the usual adversary proceeding here because I simply don't have the time to spend listening to misrepresentations by Reserve Mining Company. Couldn't you have gotten the same result conceivably with a less provocative... I mean, you were really...
I could have. But the point is, are the statements true? Are they justified? Is it more important that you look impartial and let them get away with something, or that maybe you get out of character a little bit and just say, hey, that's enough of this. Stop it. People's lives are at stake. You can't do this for profit anymore.
Applause and an award in recognition of his judicial independence, courage, and integrity from the trial lawyers of America, many of whom represent individuals in suits against big corporations.
Give them hell. I'm on the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C.
You're on it now?
I appreciate your stand. God bless you.
Thank you.
I really admire your guts. You're a hell of a man.
Thank you.
And that's...
It's not easy.
Yes, I said you're a hell of a man. That's a lot more important than being a hell of a judge.
Criminal lawyers like Ron Meshbesher don't like Miles Lord a bit. They say he's just as tough and just as unfair on their clients, alleged drug dealers and fraud artists, as he is on some corporations.
You're up against a tough fellow when you come into Miles Lord courtroom.
Exactly, because I think he's usually decided before we walk into the courtroom that the guy is guilty.
That's quite an accusation for a federal judge.
Well, that's my opinion. I've practiced before him a number of times, and I think it's probably an opinion shared by most of the criminal practitioners in our city.
That kind of criticism stings the judge. He would rather read his mail. He gets lots of it, most of it favorable.
Do you measure whether you're right or wrong by your fan mail?
This is a point.
Or by the law?
This is a point. If they say that a judge might do something that would give the appearance of impropriety, I say, as to whom? Is it the appearance of impropriety to judges or to the people of this world? I'll take the people.
Old-fashioned Minnesota populist.
Old-fashioned Minnesota humanist.
You're sure of yourself. You believe that you're talking the truth, and there's a certain arrogance about it. What about an arrogant judge who believes all of those same things, but is wrong? I mean, come on.
He can be reversed.
In fact, Judge Lord is reversed at least twice as often as the average federal judge in his district. And he's been taken off some big cases as well.
You've been removed?
I was removed from the reserve case.
You've been reprimanded?
I suppose so.
What they say...
Why don't we put it this way? I don't get along with some of those birds on the Court of Appeals.
Douglas Amdahl, Chief of the Minnesota Supreme Court.
Chief Justice Amdahl, yes.
He told us this. He said, crusaders should not decide how far the crusade should go. Miles Lord should have stayed as Attorney General, a U.S. attorney. It's a polite rebuke saying, you're a partisan and not an impartial.
That's his view of the matter, and he is right. If the U.S. Attorney's position were a permanent lifetime position, that's exactly where I belong.
An advocate.
As a person who can look around and see wrongdoing and do something about it. A federal judge is somewhat constrained.
Thinking about leaving the bench?
If I can leave the bench without appearing to leave under a cloud.
And this business with the Robbins Company and the Eighth
If this Court
Circuit.
of Appeals makes it appear that I have in some way transgressed, I will sit here until I'm senile. They'll have to send a committee to invite me off to the funny farm.
Well, Miles Lord has had second thoughts, despite the fact that the appeals court did charge the judge with injudicial conduct and with violating the Robbins executive's constitutional rights by making a governmental attack on their good name, reputation, honor, and community standing. Judge Lord said the court never censured him personally, so he has decided to retire from the bench later this month. What made him change his mind? Among other things, the fact that he can now retire and receive his full salary of $78,700 a year.